Welcome to Success Is Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Portman, serial entrepreneur, author, and podcast host. Whether success for you is more money, time with your family, a healthy, well-balanced life, or freedom, I'm interviewing guests and getting you the advice to make it happen. So join me as we uncomplicate the complicated, help you define success, and give you the strategies to make it happen.
Hello, and thank you for joining me today on the Success Is Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Portman. Joining me today is Bob Gonzalez. Bob is a small business owner and successful author. Thank you for joining us today, Bob.
Oh, thank you, Phil. Thanks for having me.
So I had a chance to read your book, A Flicker in the Water. Fantastic book. And really what I like about having you on my podcast is you're different than most of the guests I have. A lot of the guests I have, hedge fund managers, wealthy business owners and that sort of thing. But that's not always what success means, right?
Right.
Success doesn't necessarily just equate to money. What does success mean to you?
Well, I thought about that one for a while, and there's a quote I really liked from another famous American writer, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." And that one, I really love that quote. That's success.
Absolutely. And you chose at a younger age to pursue a different path. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I loved, sports of all kinds. I played a little college baseball in the 1980s. I used to whitetail deer hunt a lot when I was younger. And I used to fish in New Jersey. We would travel in the summers and catch bluefish. We didn't go every day or anything like that. It was only when I moved to Florida in my 20s that, for a small business, I didn't go down there just to fish, but I went there to open a small business, and the fishing was just a byproduct of being there. We were right on the northern Gulf of Mexico, and Destin, which is known as the world's luckiest fishing village, was where I started fishing, and I got into it really heavily. I always loved it, even when I was a kid. And it was when I got to Destin, I just started doing it all the time. And it led to the creation of this book after, 15, 20 years being out on the water. I thought, you know what, people have stories here they'll really enjoy. So that's how the book was born.
Absolutely. And we actually vacation every year for spring break in the Destin area, Port St. Joe, Apalachicola. We love that area.
It's beautiful. It really is. The sugar sand beaches, they're like the best in the world.
Yeah, and I think you refer to in the book as like the Forgotten Coast, right?
Yeah, it was known at that time as the Forgotten Coast. Yeah, it's more remembered now than it was then. But yeah, it's most people when they think of Florida, they used to think of the peninsula, from Jacksonville down to Miami, and that area, and the Panhandle was almost an afterthought. It was like it wasn't even there. But little by little, I think more people are beginning to discover it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope selfishly that not too many people discover it, because one of the things I really like about the area is it's not as touristy, and we'll go there and have bonfires on the beach, and we basically have like the whole thing to ourselves. And a lot of people describe it as like old Florida, where it's not just a bunch of hotel chains on there. Do you think that affects the fishing, the type of fishing that you get in that area, because it's not?
Oh yeah. There's been an influx of people, so they have to change the regulations to accommodate all the anglers. Back when I was fishing, we used to be able to catch 5 snappers a day, everybody on board, and all year round. Nowadays they open it up a couple times a year, for several months, and you're only allowed 2, I think, per person. And that goes for all the fish: snappers, groupers, amberjacks. And they usually, what they do is they don't open them all at the same time. They'll pick a couple months to open snapper, then a couple of different months for grouper and that sort of thing. But I will say, though, from Mexico Beach, which is next to Panama City, all the way down to Apalachicola, and even further, probably the rest of the Panhandle, there's still a lot of land there. It's still very, very off the beaten path. So the tourists haven't found that area quite as much yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to hear, and for our audience that hasn't read your book, maybe some of your extraordinary or memorable moments that you've had while fishing that made its way into the book?
Well, I guess since we're talking about snapper, I'll start with that one. We went out one day and we didn't even plan to hit the spot that we saw in our depth finder, and we just went over this place, and the depth finder was showing there was a little hill or something down underneath, and about 200-300 feet of water, and we didn't expect that. So we said, all right, let's drop the line right here. Because usually when you go out, you have a plan of where you're going to go. This spot here was totally found by accident. So we we dropped the baits down, and as soon as the baits got down there, boom, a big fish hit that bait, and we fought it for a while. We thought it might be a grouper or an amberjack because of the way it was pulling. Usually with the snappers, they have a distinctive pull where the rod, starts to shiver a little bit, where the grouper and the amberjacks are more like a straight pull. So we thought it was probably one of them, and this thing comes up, boom, 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 boom. Finally, it reaches the surface like a big beach ball, and it was all bright orange. And it turns out that the snapper was probably, it weighed 42 pounds. The state record was 45.6.
Wow.
So it was 3 pounds shy of the state record. And that wasn't the only fish we caught on that spot. There was a 50-pound grouper there as well. We caught a little while later.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So you're basically like a celebrity going on to the docks with those type of fish.
Yeah. We had an article in the paper, not about that fish, another fish, a 110-pound amberjack that we caught, which I actually gave that one a nickname because it was an old fish. His skin was really wrinkly, and that one fought like crazy too. You didn't think he was old by the way he fought. We had to throw the boat in gear to pull him out of the hole. And finally, when we brought him up, he came up belly up, and it was like a big sea monster with this big wide gills was coming. And it turned out to be a 110-pound amberjack. And I named him Marble Eye because he didn't have a pupil. He was blind in one eye and looked like a big blue marble. So I gave him that nickname, and that made the Destin Log newspaper.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's cool. Yeah, a lot of great stories, in your book, and there was kind of some scary ones as well. Can you, for our audience, can you describe some of those risky or scary occurrences that you guys had?
Well, one of the people we used to fish with on our team, he used to be the captain for a boat condominium owner there in Destin, and he took a trip one time. He was going to go from Destin to Cabo San Lucas through the Panama Canal, and he ran into some really rough seas. Well, first of all, the boat was loaded with beer. Nobody's really sure why, but the boat was loaded with beer. It was just a little walkway to the bathroom and up to the bridge, and that's it.
Nobody knows why this boat was filled with beer?
Well,
or he never admitted to why.
He probably never admitted to why. Yeah. But anyway, he got caught in some really rough weather there between Cuba and Key West when he was headed down, and it was nighttime. And they didn't think they were going to survive. They had to call the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard said, "I'm sorry, we can't go in there because you're in Cuban waters. So, but we'll keep an eye on you, and we'll see what happens." So he was with his girlfriend, and he told her to go downstairs because he couldn't keep an eye on her while he was, steering the ship. And she went into the bathroom, and the door swung closed behind her, and she had no way out. So finally, after 5 or 6 hours of going through this really rough weather, that it began to calm down a little bit, and it seemed like they were going to make it finally. So he ran downstairs and opened the door to the bathroom, and she jumped into his arms, and thankfully they were all right. The funny part of the story is, though, instead of going around to Cabo, they went to the next port, which was Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. And when they got there, he was so excited because he wasn't sure he was even going to make it. But the authorities in Mexico didn't care about that. They'd confiscated all the beer.
Did you end up getting in trouble for that?
He paid a fine, and I think maybe one night, he had detained in Mexico, but he was okay after that.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
So you've pursued various passions, from small business ownership to writing to the fishing. How do you balance these different aspects of your life, and how do they complement each other?
Well, We named the boat the Twister, which was after the pretzel store, which was called Pretzel Twister. So the name of the boat was Twister.
So kind
And
of nice.
yeah, and I don't know. It's just like you put one foot in front of the other, and one thing leads to another. And they didn't all happen all at once. It took, a lot of years. And then even years later was when I began to write. I didn't write at all back then. I just started because I wanted to relive and share those memories. I thought people would really enjoy them. So here it is, folks, right here.
Liquor in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an entertaining book, and it's crazy some of the things that happened to you guys in real life that made it into the book. It almost read like a fictional movie at times.
Mm-hmm.
So really great stories, and it gave me kind of a different perspective, being someone that I've only gone deep sea fishing one time, so I don't have too much knowledge on it. So it's really interesting to read on it.
Yeah, to do what we were doing, you have to put your time out on the water. The title was inspired by a tuna that we in Louisiana. They have a lot of oil rigs that hold a lot of tuna at certain times of the year, and you'll have to read up how that one turned out. But that will entertain you for sure.
Absolutely. So looking back at your achievements and experience, do you have any key lessons that you've learned that have been instrumental in your personal and professional growth, things that you've applied or learned over the years that, what worked or maybe what didn't work? And what were some of those lessons that you've learned over the years?
Well, one of the things I talk about on the book, and I'm glad one of the reviewers actually mentioned this, that the persistence in fishing or anything in life, it's not always going to go your way. In fishing, you have to put in a lot of time because the fish don't always cooperate. There are times where you could be out there for hours and hours and nothing. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get that hit, but you got to put in the time. If you put in the time and you pursue it the right way, eventually good things will happen. And I think that holds true for life too. So I think we can learn a lot from fishing and life, and the persistence, stick-to-itiveness, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the same thing with business, and entrepreneurship. Plenty of times where things don't go my way. And I tell people all the time, like, there's probably more times where things don't work out for me.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But sticking to it and continuing to kind of push through the times where it doesn't work. And you even talk in the book about the fish that got away, right?
Yeah. Oh, that happens to every fisherman. Sometimes they're tails, sometimes they're not. But there's not a fisherman out there who hasn't lost a fish, and a nice one at that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those make it in the book as well. And those make it in the book of life. Those times where don't work out and you still go through them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So aside from your current endeavors, do you have any future projects or goals that you're planning on pursuing?
Right now, I'm doing a lot of marketing with the book. I just did a book signing at Barnes & Noble in Naples, Florida over the weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, and things like that. I've been will do more Barnes & Noble, and I'm thinking about ideas maybe for a next book. I'm thinking doing maybe something with humor because I like laughs, and I like to write jokes and stuff. So something like that may be in the works, but that's way down the road. Right now, I'm just focused on marketing the book.
On the current one. So you're thinking like sea humor? Are they going to be related to fishing jokes?
Sometimes, some of them, yeah. There's some jokes in this book,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like the nicknames. I'm used to like nicknames being shorter names of the actual name, but that wasn't really true in your book.
Yeah.
Like Drawbridge.
Yeah. Drawbridge. Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you guys come up with that name for?
Well, his name was Trowbridge.
Okay.
So we just changed it to Drawbridge because it was ocean related.
Okay.
It's an open wide, drawbridge, open up.
Yeah.
That's where that came from. Yeah.
That's funny. So in the book signings and the things that you're doing, is that something you're natural at, being in front of the public and speaking in front of them and doing that sort of thing?
Well, at times I feel that way. I get better at it the more I do it. I enjoy the venues like the bookstores and stuff like that. I haven't done like a big auditorium or anything like that, But the bookstores where people come up to you and chat about the book, it's very personal, one-on-one. I do enjoy that a lot.
Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
So for people that want to get a hold of this book, want to follow you with what you got going on, what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, my website is the best place. It's the one-stop shop. You can get anything there. It got all the links to everything. Flickerinthewater.com is my website. Flickerinthewater.com. You go there. There's links to Amazon, Barnes and Noble. There's a lot of cool information too on that website that's not in the book that you might like too.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll check it out. I read the book. I absolutely loved it. Thought it was a great book, and wanted to have you on my show. I appreciate your time today, and thank you to our audience for listening today. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right, Phil. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you guys for watching today. Be sure to like and subscribe for more future episodes of Success Is Podcast. If you have any suggestions, please comment below. Look forward to seeing you next time.